my goal last year, my goal for last year was really just to focus on one community. I'm very, very hyper focused. I don't cast my net very, very wide. And I think that's a problem that most people do. You want to get into luxury. You're not going to be a luxury expert on Maui, or it's going to take you 30 years if to get there. What you've got to do is you've got to do hyper focus. You got to identify a neighborhood or a building or a target, an area or a community of some kind. For me, it could be as simple as a building. It could be like in Maui, it could be Honoakai or something. But what I do is, as I expand my markets out, I started as an agent in Kapalua. We're only allowed to sell in Kapalua. So that became my focus for my first 10 years or so. Then as I wanted to expand into other markets, I did it by identifying communities or neighborhoods and targeting them and focusing my entire existence that year on that specific neighborhood, which meant that I would build a website. I would build a website dedicated to this community, and it would have every photograph and every picture and every floor plan and every sale. It would have the history of sales since the beginning of time, every bit of information that a seller in this neighborhood might be interested in knowing. See, we're trying to create a situation where we provide value to someone. If you have a website that just has a search bar on it, no one's ever going to stop there. Because people are looking for specific information when they're searching. They're scrolling all the time through until they find what they're looking for. So if you're not providing something specific to anyone, you're never going to get anyone to stop. In my opinion is you do hyper focus on this and get it down to a small group of people that you can focus on for 1 year and win their business over, right? So for me, it'd be a neighborhood. Let's just say Kaanapali Hillside. And I would get every person on that in my database. I would form the Kaanapali Hillside website, have all the sales, all the information on this property. It actually has all of the schools, like on my page on this website, it would have like a listing, would have all the restaurants that I'm featuring, would have the school, would have all the local businesses. So I actually sell the community and I provide the community with real value and a reason to come to my site. So I farm like crazy, and Latasha always gives me a hard time because I'm like a farmer. And it turns out I'm a vegetable gardener as well, but I'm really into farming, and that's how I've created the business. That's how I'm going to get to $100 million, is by farming and getting listings. And so but I'm being very isolated, very, very focused on this one neighborhood for one entire year. But this website has everything that these people could want. And then I contact them, every month with a letter or market updates or a new listing or whatever, anything that happens in that neighborhood, I contact them, get into my website, show them that I'm the expert, and really could keep working through focusing in on those people by providing them value. If a buyer came into this community, what would they want to know? They want to know schools, restaurants, businesses. So when you see the listings on this page, you might see a school they listed for sale. That's just really information that these guys are going to want. And you'll get under people's skin that way by giving them, delivering them, and focusing and driving home this neighborhood and providing them this website. And Keller Williams, offers a free website. So you really could just take the template website that we provide you for free, customize it into your niche that you're going to choose, and then go in and focus on it. And where command comes into this, finally, thanks to Tasha, I finally get there. Where command comes into this is that what I would do is not only provide these guys value in the content of the website, but I would also lead generate around that website as well. So I would do Facebook campaigns in your databases in command, dump all those owners in your neighborhood into command, do your Facebook campaign through command. It's not going to cost you hardly anything. This is like a zero cost program right here, right? And you're doing not zero, but it's a minimal cost. You're doing Facebook campaigns through command. You're providing them value with the content of your site. You're farming them all the time, and they don't know that you're doing this stuff. And then when you come up for a listing and you get a chance to present at a listing, you can go into the listing presentation competing with the person that already has 10 listings in this community. And you can say to them, look, I have real value to offer. I have dedicated myself to your community. I have the website to show it. I have all this great information in there. I'm farming around it. I'm also lead generating around it. And I'm generating leads for your community. And I think ultimately I've gotten listings to people like saying, well, dude, this dude is hustling, for business here. And these listing agents aren't doing anything, right? Listing agents are lazy, and I'm guilty of it. I'm one of them. I get the listing, I'm like, yes, I'm done. Not that I'm done, but you know what I mean? You got the business and everyone's trying to sell your listing, right? So that's awesome. but we don't tend to be very aggressive in lead generating because I'm a listing agent. That's what I do, right? So I go in there and tell them that I'm dedicated to the community. As I said, I've got this website, it's got all this information on it. Buyers go there, sellers go there, and also lead generate. And I create 300 leads a month on the program that I was doing. I was buying Facebook ads and stuff. I was generating 300 leads a month on this campaign dedicated to this community, right? So, I mean, there's a real value to someone, right? Now that they were Facebook leads, I mean, they weren't all great leads. And half the time I wasn't even calling them, but I didn't really, that wasn't the point. The point is that I could go into a listing and say, I'm dedicated to your community. And I get 300 leads a month, and I dumped them into a database and tried to nurture those leads. But I think, people tell me they're farming and I go, well, what are you doing? And they say, well, I just send out a random letter and occasional different areas. And that's not farming. It's like weeding. It's not, you're scattering seeds, but you're not doing enough. You really have to get in there and create relationships and provide real value. If you send out a farm letter to someone, I get farm letters all the time at my house. And just for curiosity, I'll go on the site or the person's site and they'll have nothing about my area on it. They're obviously not an expert in this area. They have no listings. So for me, why would I call them? So farming is doing the mail outs, but sending them, the point of the letter is to send them to somewhere. And if you don't have somewhere for them to go, there's no value to it, right? So I say, people will ask me, well, how big should my niche be? Well, your niche should be as big as you're willing to commit that level of detail that you can provide to your niche, which means that you have to scrub the net. You have to get every bit of information about every sale or photograph or everything that's out there, everything event, community events. People want to know community. They want to know sales information. And Gary Callahan, I still remember the slide on the screen from the family reunion I went to, and they were like, well, and I was designing a website at the time. They're like, well, what do consumers want in a website? Good question. We sell ourselves like they care about us, right? But actually, no, the consumer is actually looking for specific information about it, certain area or property. So they're looking for, and what there were five items. One was obviously the photographs and specs and all of the obvious stuff. But then it was sales information. I don't know if any of you have any sales information on your website, community information. And it was all this stuff that none of us really had on our sites. And it turns out that that's what consumers are looking for. You know what I mean? So I really took that to heart and flipped that around and go, you know what? Why would anyone go to my site? So I'm casting my net too wide. I'm trying to capture all of Maui. It's not going to work. So I really zoned in and became super hyper-focused on communities. And I think if all of us in this group right now divided up the island, and take our little areas and our little niches and really zone in and provide real value to that community and go all in on each little community, that's how you'll take over. You're not gonna, for me, I'll tell you what happened with me is that when I first started in the business, I was in Kapalua. And as I mentioned, I could only sell in Kapalua. So I farmed Kapalua for like 15 years. And they were sick of me. They're like, give them the listing already, say stops, please. But ultimately, that first phase of my career where I farmed like crazy and I established myself as a listing agent is something that I've leveraged through my entire career, that first 10 years. And even now, when I try to break into new markets, I still am leveraging the initial success that I had on my farming campaign in Kapalua. The ability for me to have success moving into Lahaina markets, the fact that I have had success already in Kapalua, so I can leverage that success. So my challenge for you all is to identify a niche, to target that niche, create the website, give them as much value as possible, focus in on that niche. I would say, do nothing this year. If you did nothing else this year, you would identify a small community or niche. You would do what I said, which is take a free website, customize it, and you would throw in some command Facebook campaigns in one specific region. You concentrate on that for 5 years, you will have great success in this business over the long run. But you got to have the initial win. There's no other way to do it. No one's ever done it any other way. If we look back and we look at Bob Cartwright, he's a great example. I always thought Bob was the best broker on the island. And because what he did is all he did for his first 20 years was focus on the whaler, the Kanapali Ali'i, Kanapali Shores, and the Mahana. That was it. Kanapali ocean fronts. That's all he did. if he had a client that called about Kapalua, he'd call me up and give me the address and go, I have no idea where this is. Can you help me? You know, so he was so focused on Kapalua, on those Kaanapali ocean fronts. But what happened was, towards his latter half of his career, he got every listing of every new project in Kaanapali. The golf estate, the vintage, all of those properties were sold through Bob. He absolutely owned that market. And he started by owning the Whaler and the Kaanapali Ali. That was what he took ownership of. And once he had that win, he got the rest with Kaanapali, and that was enough for him. He didn't even need to expand. But it's a great example. If you look at any successful agent, ask them what their first 10 years looked like, or how did they catapult from, to be success on a large scale. It just takes time. You know what I mean? But you have to have the right strategy. If you have to invest time, don't do what I did, which was I fumbled around for 20 years and then figured it out. Nowadays, with Keller Williams and all the people willing to share and all the systems and models that are in place, what took me 20 years should be able to be done in 5 years. If you implement a strategy that's super hyper focused on not getting huge, but by having small wins and leveraging and moving forward. It's 100% the way to do it. It's whether you're breaking into regular real estate or luxury or breaking into anything. The only way to do that is through hyper focus and having that initial win. There's a book out there, a very famous book by, I forget his name now, Keller Williams, a book called The One Thing. And that really sort of is very similar to what I'm telling you, which is that there's just too much out there, and we tend to cast our net too wide and start throwing letters around randomly without any serious focus and direction. But for me, in an $80 million year last year, I only spent $30,000 by doing this campaign on one community, one focus, one community. Look, if someone calls me up and says, I want to buy a house in Wale, I'm in my car and I'm gone. What I'm talking about is where you focus your resources, where you focus your marketing, and where you focus your branding. Because your branding not going to be successful until that branding is successful in some small little niche. You have to have that first win. So then you have a brand to leverage. But if we try to go too big, we never quite get there because we never get established enough to have any success in any individual little market, right? So I guess my encouragement to you would be to hyper focus in. Don't be scattered and don't be distracted by shiny objects. It's a very simple program. You just have to dedicate yourself to that one niche per year and make it a 5-year program. And I think who's that?
So this is Latasha. So sorry, I was having internet issues. But I wanted to come back because we've got several questions. So hopefully I don't repeat myself, but just the original question or repeat anything that someone previously said. Who is the amazing coach? So at the onset of the very beginning, you mentioned your coach. Would you be able to share that information with us?
Sure. Well, I can put it in a chat right here. I'll put that in a minute when I have a moment. But yeah, she's not a real estate coach, but I think, man, I tell you, it's completely rocked my world. I can't even believe how much my life has changed. And my goal ultimately is to just be happy. It's not about making money anymore. I want to be stress-free, content and happy and no stress, right? And so money is obviously a big part of that, but it's not the goal. It's the way to get to the goal, right? So having that plan in place, super focused plan that you just stick with, and you don't get attached to the outcome. Just make your 79 great shots, and I think that you get there. It sounds pretty simple, but it's just a really, really hyper focused plan to get long-term success. But you're never going to get there unless you have that initial first small success. So zero in on a community that you love and willing to commit to for 5 years.
So Baron had a question. Baron, Dean already covered the activities. I think it addressed your question. Is there any follow-up, Baron, that you wanted to ask Dean in regards to activity, strategy, business?
Let me see. Do I see the message?
So she basically
building your own So building your own website as well as farming the area, sending out, I guess, something every month, targeting that specific area. Yeah. And what else? Are you calling those people too?
I'm doing everything, right? So what I do is I identify an area. I go to the restaurants in that area. I go to the businesses in those areas. I frequent that area, hang out at that area, and I get to know everyone in the area. I go to the businesses, say, I'll feature you on my website. I do X amount of business every year. And be featuring you on my website. So you ask for referrals from everyone. You go to the school and you work with the school. I actually volunteered and was a founding member of the school. I believe that one of the ways to break into luxury, I don't think you get into the upper end of luxury unless you have done some significant community service. I think that's an expectation that comes in luxury. And I think, it's kind of like you ask for all the business and expect big paydays, but you've got to kind of give back to your community. And that's part of and so I volunteer in my niche. I frequent the restaurants in my niche, and I basically just live in that niche and work it and mail it and get referrals from people in business and stuff, and really just, get in there and live it and own it.
Where do you, Dean, like what you're going to put into the website, where do you collect that or capture that from?
Where do I capture what? Say again?
The stuff that you're using in your website, like all the little pictures and all this kind of good stuff. Where do you get it all?
Oh man, you'd be amazed what's on the internet. I do I have photographers the photographers have a lot of stock, and then I just go and send my photographer in to get what I need. But you'll find a lot of stuff on the internet if you scrub the net. But again, I'm not just focused on the real estate here on these things. I'm selling the community and I'm selling the lifestyle. And then I'm also selling the real estate. But I think ultimately we're really deep into this community and its lifestyle and its businesses and its restaurants. And I'm sort of promoting it all, But I'm very, very, very buried into it.
So the
website is where they can go and see that I'm actually doing what I'm saying I'm doing. So it's got to be a good website. It's got to be a good website. It has a lot of good content. You don't have to have an expensive website. And then you can add landing pages. Landing pages are free. So every time there's a sale or new listing, that's a reason to contact them, but just be the first one to reach out to them. So eventually they're going to be like, wait a second, this person's really hustling. And when you can come in there, when they notice that you're hustling and then you can show your value, then I think value being generating leads and focus on your community, you'll be a consideration for listings. And then once you get one, and then you leverage that and you keep going. But that is the process. It's just, I think most people make the mistake of trying to cast the net too wide.
Hey, Dean, one other question, and then following up to the other thing that you can do is search for images. For those of you that are on the call and watching the recording, type in free stock images. Free stock images on Google, do a Google search, and there you can do it by specific type. If you want to do restaurants, if you want to do Maui, you want to do beach, just go to free stock images and you can get everything that you want. I want to circle back on Sasha's question. She mentioned early on, do you have intentional thoughts, affirmations that you do every day or you focus on daily in terms of daily affirmations?
I don't do daily affirmations, but I've been very purposeful about creating time to have downtime. So I do meditate. I get up early every day. I'm an avid vegetable gardener. I have a huge backyard now that's like, it's going to be a jungle pretty soon. I have 37 different species of vegetables and fruit trees. It's crazy. People think I've gone nuts. But I spend a lot of time out there. It's that time is every moment that I have that I'm not on the phone, I walk outside to my garden and I'm out there fiddling around, which is just I just love it so much. And I'm also doing a lot of drawing now. So pencil drawing, I always wanted to be an artist. So I just decided that I'm going to become an artist. And I was very intimidated by it though. And this is a coaching thing, right? And because I'm intimidated by things that I don't know what the result's going to be, or if I don't know that I'm good at it. That's normal, right? And what you do is you would just push those aside and not try it, right? And you just never do it or whatever. So she's like, just pick your pencil up and put it on the paper, and go, and I did. And I've been doing some amazing, I'll show you the drawing here. I've been doing some really cool drawings and stuff.
Woo! Awesome.
But, what I've done is,
Awesome.
When I do a drawing like that, and one day I was sitting here drawing, and when I was finished, I stopped and I realized the room was almost completely dark. The sun had set, and it was almost completely. I didn't even realize. I was so hyper focused on that drawing that I even noticed it got dark. But it's that kind of downtime that's really valuable to me now, and it's become a big part of my life. And I'm sort of addicted to it and I crave it all the time. But I also am working really hard, and this beginning of this year is off the charts already. I'm going to be like hitting 30 million in 2 months. It's crazy, right? And I'm just so confident, and I'm so comfortable in my skin in these situations now, having this downtime, being fully mentally recharged and focused. And I'm hyper focused. It's been really easy for me, to be honest with you. And I haven't changed anything. I'll be honest with you, I'm doing way less than I've ever done. I'm spending way less than I've ever spent, taking more time off than I've ever taken. And I went from 60 to 80 million. I'm going to go to 100 million this year. So
awesome. Share with us, Baron mentioned your website name. Could you share with us your website address?
My website is deanotto.com, but it's not necessarily the website that I use when I'm targeting a market. I don't have one available to show you, but I'm working with an agent in Portland who's doing a really cool job with a site that I think would be perfect. And he's trying to do the same thing, move into a community, and he's volunteered at school, and he's done all this stuff, that we've talked about, and it's going really well for him. And it's a fact. I mean, you can. The typical mistake, and even Natasha, when I talked to her, we talked about, man, I think you're spreading your wings too wide. I think you're going after too much. Why don't you just zone in and win this one neighborhood, and next you go after another one? It worked, right?
Yes, it worked. Like I could not imagine the success that I've had, and I'm still continuing that. And I have 2 areas, one on the west side, a community, and one on the west side. And that's my sole focus. And I've gotten more leads, more diverse leads, people asking me to do things that I didn't even, that's not even on my website. They've been asking me to do. So it's been awesome.
And you get referrals that way too, right? Because people know you and you get under the skin. People want to see sales. If you do nothing else, give sales information like that. No one does that. And that's really what people are looking for. That's the number one thing that a seller or buyer is looking for. Seller too. They want to know what the sales are. That's why Zillow gets so much attention, because we don't do a good enough job giving anyone the value that they're looking for. Zillow's giving them value. They're predicting income. I mean, they predict rent, they predict sales price. They're giving real value. So if you look at your site, you go, what is the value that I'm offering here? And if it's not enough value, it's because you're not focused in enough on anything to give anyone value. Even if you get 50 people that see the value versus trying to reach out to 3,000 and never get there.
I want to circle back on community. You had mentioned about farming the community. I do want to give this tidbit, and then I want to make sure that Thomas got his question answered. But speaking to Dean, because I followed Dean's strategy to the T. And when you're looking into farming that community, so for example, for me, I was really focused on my holiday designs last quarter. And so what I did is when I would dress up, so when I would go to and do an install for the holiday, I would actually dress up as an elf, because one of my communities is really about families coming for the holidays. And so I would dress up as an elf, and after my design setup, then I would go to Wailea shops at Wailea, and I would just go and shop in my elf costume. And people would ask me all the time, oh, there's an elf. And then people want to take pictures with me. People are asking me like, well, why are you dressed? Where are you going? And it was just a natural way for me to talk about what I do. So don't underestimate the power of farming that community. Speaking of community, Thomas asked a question in terms of how do you farm a community that is actively being farmed by another agent, but you have good contacts in the community? So can you speak to that in terms of how do you want to leverage that in terms of other agents?
Yeah, that's a great point. Yeah, that's a really good question. I think that I target the most successful agents in their markets because they're the laziest, for sure. But I think the answer to your question is by providing real value, because none of the other agents really are, right? So I think that the way that you outcompete people in an area that's dominated by the agents is by providing value. And as I've already mentioned, I think the value that you provide is the information that they're looking for. So it's all out there. I bet that the competition isn't giving them all the sales information, doesn't have all the history, doesn't have all the photos, doesn't have all the floor plans, doesn't have all the building types and and all the information that you could possibly want. So if you were an owner in that community, it wouldn't make any sense if you had a question to go anywhere else other than this website versus going to other websites and scrolling through 50 before you find the answer. So it's almost like you got to be the resource for this community. I provide handyman referrals. I mean, and then I go to the handyman guys and say, hey, you need to refer me too. I'm referring you on my site, you know? And then the same with restaurants and the same with doctors and attorneys. You could go through everyone in your community because they, you know, they're going to buy it too. They're going to be like, wow, you're committed to my community, obviously, your website. And if you feature the restaurant on the website, why wouldn't they be happy? And you're lead generating at the same time, right? The key to the program is not just the site. That's great because you can kind of show them that you're an expert, but to really be able to compete in a listing situation against competition is when you have those leads and you've done your command Facebook campaigns. And you can say, even if you haven't closed one of those, no one ever asked me, how many of those leads have you closed? They never asked me once. They were just like, whoa, you get 300 leads a month. That's awesome. You know, I don't think any of the other agents are doing that, you know, so it's value though, right? So I think that's the answer to the question, Tom, is that you just have to, you can compete with anyone. And I wouldn't shy away from communities that you feel like are dominated by successful agents. I would target those and just do a much better job of providing value to the clients.
I guess just to add to that, something that I lived in the Puamana community for a long time.
Nice. Yeah.
And Mark and Andy.
Yeah, Markello.
Markello, yeah. And I just don't almost be, it's like, would I be stepping on their toes? Would they see that and be like, I mean, I guess I would be if I started getting listings, but I don't know, something about it just, I was like, is that the right thing?
Well, I think what you're gonna find is that every neighborhood has people that are working them to death already, you know what I mean? So I think it's kind of like you're gonna step on someone's toes. And I think that I wouldn't worry about it. You know, the thing about people always tell me is like, oh, don't you feel bad that, you know, you took someone else's client? I mean, that someone else sold that property to them. I'm like, well, every time I get a new client, they were someone else's client. And I can't be in this business and not grow without taking other people's clients. You know what I mean? So not that I'm trying to, but if someone approaches me and says, will you give a listing presentation? I'm going to try like hell to get it. I don't really think of that I'm taking it away from someone. You know, I think that I wouldn't be afraid of it. I would say, don't just pick what you have passion for and stick with that. If you're a Puamana guy, do Puamana. I would say, I mean, you can do other stuff too, maybe you can pick two. Sometimes it's, if you want to get into luxury, sometimes you want to go one luxury neighborhood, one mid-range, but you can do two farms if they're small enough and you're willing to commit the level of detail that you need to do to be successful at this program. But I wouldn't shy away from places like that. I think that you go where you have passion, and because you think about it as a 5-year program. So you're gonna be dealing with this for 5 years. And yeah, I wouldn't worry about it. If you come to Kapalua, you're gonna be competing with me, and that's gonna really piss me off. Okay,
so when you decided to 180 your business, because that's kind of what I'm in the middle of right now. I've always been extremely buyer heavy, as you know, which is how we became such good friends over the years. But I'm tired of being a buyer's agent. Like you said, I can't work 20 buyers at the same time. I'd want to shoot them all. So, and I love my clients. So I need to turn it around 100%.
Yeah, so you need to become a listing agent. And, you know, again, the way that you flip it around is not by trying to get listings across the island. You flip it around by pick a neighborhood and try to get some listings there, and then you'll be fine. You got enough history and experience and success to be able to, you know, get people's attention. It's just, you need to be focused with it, you know?
Okay, but my next question is, when you decided that year you were going to turn around 100%, I think you said you doubled your year. So it didn't matter that you started back from scratch. You still, because of your mindset, were able to double your income.
Right, yeah, exactly. And I didn't change that much. I was just, you know, again, I had a really good plan. I was very organized. I got all these things out of the way that were distractions. I was the president of a school board and I had all this stuff going on, right? And I got rid of it all. And I was like, no, I'm on a mission to get to this point. And then it didn't become even about this point. It became about, this is what I got to do. Here's my plan. And I just stuck to the plan. And every shot that I made was going to be a great shot. And I didn't look at, I wasn't looking big picture. I wasn't focused. I was just really, I was having a ball, you know, and to become, this has been the best couple of years of my life because I'm so much happier. I'm so much more comfortable in my skin. I'm so much, more confident in my ability to do the right thing and close the sales and do whatever I need to do. I just have so much less stress about it all. And that's because I have a great plan. It's because I have such focus, and I'm not stressing about the things that stress me out. I'm focused on my plan. So it seems simple, but it's a really great thing. And you have a lot of great information with Keller Williams and a lot of people willing to share. But, I think that, finding your one thing and getting your first win is going to be the key to a successful business. And so you need to figure out, where can you find your first win? What do you have passion for? It's got to be small, and got to be focused. You got to commit to it 100%. And if you want to know more about what that means, you can call me. But I think ultimately I'm going to be like, you got to be everything about this community, every restaurant, know everyone. And it's a great reason to go in there and meet people and you have a story. So.
Awesome. One follow-up question, and then I'll open it up to anyone else. Steve's question early on, he was circling back on the coach or the cost for
So
coaching.
the coaching is typically going to be around $1,000 a month. Starting out what it was for me, it's I'm up to like $3,000 a month right now because I'm like so into it, right? I'm totally, I can't get enough. I mean, I'm just dying to talk. I mean, this poor woman is like, this guy's crazy. But it's literally the only difference between 25 million and 80 million that I can see. I've done nothing else different. So, she thinks I'm crazy. I'm like, I'm looking at my income and I'm going, wait a second, this is worth 10 times that, So I think it's just great to have a sounding board. It's life coaching, it's performance coaching. It's just fundamental to existing. And, this is a tough business. It's super stressful. And I think that getting stressed out about it is the hardest, because clients can actually feel your stress. What I'm saying when I say I'm so comfortable in my skin and I just feel so good about everything, clients pick up on that. They do. And if you're stressed about, you haven't sold anything in a long time, you're trying to close the deal, man, it's the hardest place to be, because people can sense that. It's just a weird thing, And so now in my space that I'm in now, it's like I can't go wrong. I don't know why, but it's just it almost feels lucky. But ultimately,
Great.
and people want to work with who they like. So it's a very relational business now, which is awesome. I love this part of this new world of ours, because people want to hang out, they want to be friends, and that's my world. I'll do 30, 80 million was 30 deals, right, or 28 deals. So I can do that easily. I can form a great relationship with 28 people per year, and we go pretty deep. But I lead with empathy. I'm not a super aggressive salesperson. So I had a situation yesterday where we had a situation where it was an as-is sale. The report came back, it was really bad. Guy was all pissed off, screaming, shouting. The guy's like, as is, no. I said, well, let me just handle this. So I went in and I said, I'm going to pay for a deep cleaning on this house, because they were about to have a baby and they didn't have any money. So I went in and I said, I know it's as is. I'm going to pay for the deep cleaning and the deep cleaning of the air conditioning, because I want a safe environment for the baby when the baby's born. And I'm going to provide you with a copy of this report. And if you feel like you would like to do some of these repairs, we'd really appreciate it. And then they came back and said, we're going to do all the repairs. And it went from a flat out no to I'll just do it because I want to do it and that's the right thing to do. And I think leading with empathy is a great thing, and people don't realize that. People are going to judge you before they're going to judge your message. So people want to work with who they like. So if they don't like you, they're not going to listen or go for your message. But so you got to go in and win them over before you pitch your message that you're trying to deliver, because they're not going to accept the message until they've decided that they like you. All right. So I'm a very, very patient person. I think patience is probably my greatest strength in real estate, is letting deals develop and letting them unfold. After 30 years now, I almost know to the penny where the deal's going to end up when the offer's made. I always predict it to the penny. I'm always right every time, but I can never cut to the chase and try to get them to that point. I have to let it evolve organically and let the parties go through the experience to be able to get that deal done. And the patience is a hard part. but that's a real talent. I think that's something that we need as the agents is the patience to let the deal unfold and happen is really a challenge. And it's I think become the strength of mine. You know?
Awesome. Bonnie had a question as it relates to going back to your virtual assistant. I believe you have an assistant and she's part-time.
I have an assistant. Yeah, I have an assistant that's part-time. I have a transaction coordinator as well. So
and then
very skinny operation. Yeah.
For your part-time assistant, Bonnie also wanted to know what specifically in terms of what does she do for you? And then how integrated is she in on the listing part of your business?
Right. So yeah, she's very involved. She pretty much runs it for me. So I have like a system or model that I do every month. I start at the beginning of the month when the stats come out on about the 10th. And then I get a message that I build based on what's happening that month. And I give her that message and identify a property that I want to promote for that month. And then she rolls out a program of e-blasting, social media, farm letter, and it all has a consistent message all the way through the month. I design the message kind of thing, but she basically implements the model. She does the mail out, she does the e-blast, I do a lot of the social media, but she kind of manages it all. So yeah, she's very, very big part of my world. And we've been together for 14 years. She's amazing. She's like one of my great friends, but I've never known anyone that can execute like she can. She's unbelievable. Just an absolute superstar and really cool. I mean, she's the one who changed my passwords to shithead1. I mean, it's crazy. So we have a lot of fun. We have a lot of fun with it, but she is amazing. And I would say that, I'm very big on coaching, but there's no question that the number one first hire, I think, for most people should be admin. Admin is the key to the thing because it just put me in the front lines. She's doing all the back end. And I think we get bogged down with the little details that we shouldn't be doing. And that's a big, huge change for me was hiring an assistant. That to me is a no-brainer. You almost have to have.
Create your listings, I would assume, but does she actually look up the comps or do you do that yourself?
I do that. I do the comps, I do the listing presentations. I'm not your typical Keller Williams agent in many ways, I guess, as an individual, and I kind of wing it a little bit. I'm much more like get in front of people and just try to go for it. I don't actually have a permanent listing presentation, which is most people don't quite get that. But I think I just have really had much more success getting in front of people and really trying to sell Keller. I'm a big fan of Keller Williams. I sell it every day. And I think it's the easiest thing to sell. I mean, we're closing $1.4 billion per day. I mean, that's kind of like the end of that conversation. You can't not be impressed with that. And then as a luxury agent, we sell $100 billion per year in the luxury division. So it's actually a great referral source, right? So you have this massive company of 185,000, and then you have a luxury division within that. And that's a really great. And they sell 100, I think it's $1 billion per year, and then about 10. I'm trying to think of the numbers now. 100 billion, and I think 10 billion was agent to agent referrals.
Wow.
Right. So when I go into a listing presentation, I tell Keller Williams how great it is, but I'm not really part of the 185,000. I'm part of the luxury division. And we sell about 100 billion a year. And I can quote the specific dollar amount of how much of that amount of money came from agent to agent referral. Keller Williams referring to Keller Williams. And I think it's a great number to, because we also got networks, but every company says the same thing. So what does that really mean? But if you can give them a specific number, like $10 billion or whatever it is, was referrals, then that kind of makes it real. Yeah. Right. Awesome. That's agent to agent referrals. There's a huge number of them that goes on at Keller Williams, and I leverage that as a way of legitimizing what we got you, and not just saying, oh, I work for a great company, there's a great referral. I go down to this amount of money was agent to agent results, and I get a lot of referrals, and I do. I'm really lucky. I just got to.
Sorry, Steve, you had your hand up.
Yes. So quick question, might be kind of silly for experienced agents, but long story short is, so let's say you sit down, you get the listing, they're ready to go. My confusion is, they say get it signed, right? So you get it signed, but the two biggest things are, when are you going to put it on the market and how much, you're going to do it for, which sometimes might not be completely figured out depending on their schedule and things going on. So what's your song and dance as far as, okay, having them sign something and then having them re-sign something or making changes?
Yeah, I rarely have them change anything. So I'd be, I'm not signing anything that's not ready to be signed, right? It'll be in final. So if there's something that's not satisfied yet that I don't sign anything, I'll just work with them to get them to the point of settling on the price and whatever the deal is, but I don't think there's any reason to sign and then re-sign. I'm not sure that I've ever really been in that situation, so I'm not sure. I think, ultimately there's a conversation and it's a journey. So, you take them from the first interview, but you're constantly driving to get the listing signed, but it's not the number one. You gotta get them to like you first, right? Like I said, before you can, I wouldn't try and get them to sign. I'll hold back rather. I'm the patient one. I want to get them to like me and to have a connection, and then I'm going to try and close them. And I had a great experience here recently. Joanne Fox and I got a co-listing, which is just an escrow. It's $9,975,000. They actually had a signed agreement with Marianne Fitch that wasn't active until the week after because they hadn't left yet. And then in the meantime, I ran into him, we met him, and had this great conversation with him. And he was like, "Oh crap, I want to list with you." And I was like, "Oh man, this is not going to go down too well." I was like, "Well, I'm not sure I can do that because you already signed a listing agreement." He just told me, like, "I already got a signed listing agreement." I'm like, "What the hell are we talking about there? I'm not supposed to be talking to you." He's like, "No." And he hung up, picked up the phone, he called her up and he said, "I want to cancel the listing. I'm going to list it with Dean." And she hit the roof, of course. But, that was a case, Steve. That was a case where if she had pressed for the date to be earlier, she would have had the deal. That's a very rare, a very unusual situation. And, basically the difference was that Marianne thought the listing should be at 8 million and I was willing to take it for 9.9. And then we ended up just selling it recently for 9.35. So I was right. And Marianne was the buyer's agent. So it was perfect. It was a perfect scenario, which we were happy for. I wanted her to be the agent because it wasn't my choice. It was just, that's part of the battle. But yeah, that is a case where you could have signed it. But I never rush to sign. That's not my style. I want to get them, I want to form a relationship first because as I say, you want to lead with empathy. You want to get them to like you. People don't work with people they don't like. So if you just go in there trying to slam a contract through, even if it's something they sign later, that's going to, I think, rub people the wrong way.
Okay, yeah, no, that makes sense. It's not that I'm, worried, I might lose out, but in the meantime, you've always heard, hey, get them to, get the appointment, get the thing.
Yeah, you do, but I think there's a timing thing there, right? So, again, I think you can rub people the wrong way if all you want to do is get a signed agreement. To me, I get, like, when I've been looking at properties in the mainland and people call me up and they go, sign this buyer rep agreement, I tell them to shove it up there, because I haven't even met these people. You don't even know who they are, right? I've never signed a buyer representation agreement. I'm not recommending that. I think you should sign them if you can. I've never signed them because I don't work with anyone that doesn't want to work with me, first of all. I'm not going to force someone because of a written agreement they sign. They work with me because they like me, and they think and they do a good job and I can do a job, right? I'm getting results. So I'm not like just goofing off, right? But I think ultimately I've never used one and I'm old school. I've been doing this for a long time. So we never had buyer agreements. So I've had a hard time converting. But I know that when people have asked me to sign one, I've flat out said, absolutely not. Why don't you go prove yourself that you deserve this first? And how about we meet each other and say hi, have a conversation for 2 minutes, But that rubbed me the wrong way. And I never worked with any of those guys because I felt like, well, they don't really want to look after my best interest. They just want to get an agreement. And that's what it feels like. And it's the higher end you go, the more sensitivity there is to that they think you just want the commission. That's all, And so I think that there's a sensitivity there that I'm very sensitive to because I'm the high end broker. I feel it and I know it because I'm constantly being sort of watched to see if I'm going to do anything that might suggest that I'm just trying to get a commission and not represent them. So I don't even go there. It's a beautiful thing. It's a great business. I love it, man. That is so fun. I'm meeting amazing people. And I don't pressure anyone into anything. There's no way. I don't think it's necessary. I don't think people appreciate it.
I agree.
But that's just me. I know that signing a buyer rep agreement is important, But if you are, I still recommend that not be the first 5 minutes of the conversation, right? Once you get a little rapport, then I think you throw it down. But I just know that people work with people that they like. So, and to me, I don't like people trying to ram an agreement down my throat before I've had a chance to have a 15-minute conversation with them. That's just me.
So we are out of time. Thank you so much, Dean, for your valuable nuggets. Is there any one last parting word or anything you want to say, or is there a final question by anyone? If not, forever hold your peace. No.
Any last questions?
Dean, any parting words, any final?
I think I've rambled on enough. You're probably sick of me already, but I think I'm happy to help, so if anyone feels like, they have questions or they want to talk more about the strategy or what niche or whatever, don't hesitate to reach out to me. I'm pretty available here. So yeah, I think that's the best way to leave it. And I want to put a number in here, trying to get a moment to find her number, but I'll put my coach's number in here. She's in Austin, Texas, but she's awesome, man. I really am a big fan. So I'm gonna do that right now. Let's see. There we go. Yeah, reach out to her. She's got different programs, and I just think it's really good. Fundamental training, if you get your mindset right, and the idea that your thoughts are, controlling you, better get them right.
Awesome.
And that's been my main difference.
Thanks, Dean. We love you and have a wonderful day.
Thanks, guys. Have a great day.
We will record this, or it has been recorded.
Thank you, Dean. Thanks, Natasha.